Drawing an eye from the front usually isn't much of a problem, but a lot of people are really struggling with understanding how this works in perspective. So they just end up with something like this. But there are a couple of things that you definitely want to keep in mind if you want to draw eyes that actually look good in every angle, and I'm going to show you how this works. Hi guys, my name's Marcel, and it would be great if you liked this video. No, but seriously, there's so much work I put into these videos, please leave a like. As always, I'll give you guys a quick intro on how this works in a very simple manner, and then we can tackle things like harder perspectives, problems that you might face, and there's even gonna be a cheat sheet at some point in the video, as always. But let's finally get started drawing. Like so. You know how we tackle something here on this channel. In order to draw something, we have to simplify it first. And here is the biggest problem most beginners face with drawing eyes. Because while drawing, you don't only have to think about the eyeball on the inside, you also have to keep the eyelids in mind. Obviously, beginners are going to draw eyes as some kind of triangular shape or something because, well, that's just how eyes look like to them. And that's okay if you draw an eye from the front, but if you were to draw the eyes more advanced, like in perspective for example, that's not gonna cut it anymore. Like a dog that literally looks like this eye's just painted onto the face. Like, what? So here's an easy trick to simplify an eye. You draw this shape, and then you split it into 3 halves. That's obviously because you have your eyeball, and like I said, you also have to consider the eyelids, because they are the ones responsible for the shape. Now, congratulations, you just learned how to draw an eye from all perspectives, because if you were to just shift the perspective to, let's say, a 3/4 view, you might be able to tell right away that things did not change here. So, as a comparison, let's try this method instead, and as you can see, splitting the eye up into 3 parts works wonders from other perspectives as well. You just have to keep the perspective in mind. In this case, since this person is looking to the left, you also can't see much of the left side of the eye. And that's because you are not just drawing some abstract weird shape, you are considering every part of the eye. The actual eyeball as well as the eyelid that gives this whole thing its shape. They are both equally as important. Drawing the eye without the lids is like British tea time without tea. Like Japanese food without rice or noodles. Or American food without a gun. Okay, but I promised you guys this video would cover eyes from all angles, so let's draw some more angles like this. I did prepare a couple of references, so let's draw these eyes together, because I know you guys like draw along parts like these a lot. Also, don't worry, you can always rewind or pause or just change the playback speed in case you're lost. Okay, the first view is from above, and in this case it's especially helpful to have this eye split into 3 parts, because as you can see, this is how the form of this eye works. You have the middle part, the one part going back, and the one part going forward. And obviously, it's not going to stay like this. These are just guidelines after all. You can round things off, especially with female eyes. Now, remember, this is just the shape of the eyelids, not the eyeball. You can actually see this in the reference image. So you could add this eyeball in your own drawing as well. Which I totally forgot while recording. But yeah, you get the point. Alright, the next eye is the exact same thing, just in reverse. Because we see it from below instead of from above. Simplifying this again would mean one part in the front and bending the other parts accordingly. And just like last time, you can draw in some more smoother features in order to make all of this look less stiff and a bit more feminine. Okay, now, I included a side view as well because this is a very curious case. You obviously wouldn't be able to see much of the front part, but you would definitely be able to see a lot of the right triangle since you're looking directly at it. So the shape you would have to draw here would look more like this. By the way, I also added the eyelids here because I thought this way it's a bit more obvious how this view works. And the rest, well, is business as usual. Also, in case you're curious about what kind of pens or art supplies I like to use, you can look all of them up on my art supply list, which is on my website, as always. Now, a problem that you are probably going to face sooner or later is that you did draw the eyes exactly like I did just now, but it's just gonna look flat and like, again, someone painted it onto the skull. That's a very big issue with beginners. In fact, it's such a big problem that it's even brought up in books that are close to like 100 years old. Like, you nailed the shape and the form of the eye, but a good indicator if your drawing actually has volume are T-lines. Beginners that just copy mostly use one consecutive line, while a person that actually constructs a drawing has many elements to it, so the lines would also overlap, aka these so-called T-lines. So yeah, maybe watch out for that. Now, I think most of this was still fairly simple and stuff you could easily practice on your own, but let's take a look at something that's a bit more difficult. Okay, you can draw an eye from a slightly different perspective, but here's an example that's a bit more difficult, because for the outer eye, you can't just do the exact same thing, copy-paste, and call it a day. Take a look at real life, or maybe at our simplified reference here. Now, the eyeball doesn't change, that's always literally a ball from every angle. But watch how the eyelids wrap around the eyeball, resulting in a different shape. So let's get to drawing this kind of view where the eye is actually on the outer side. It's just like before, where the outer triangle is so small that you're barely able to see it in the first place. Now, what you must not forget here is, if you want your eye to look good, don't just hint at your eyelids, but also just draw them in. Maybe you noticed me doing that in the draw along part as well. And that's because it's crucial to make your eye look actually 3D. Don't forget to consider your eyelids as actual 3D figures as well. Without these, your eye could still be looking okay-ish, but if you want your eye to look really good, especially if you draw an eye in a close-up, you really can't forget about the eyelids. Now then, something that I have not touched upon yet are very stylized eyes. Obviously, some of y'all like to draw eyes that are a bit less realistic in proportion and a bit more anime. And I'm not talking a lot about it because it's literally the same thing here. Even with extremely stylized eyes, you can just split it into 3 parts and then draw it from every perspective. It's literally the exact same procedure. By the way, a lot of artists also like to draw eyes with just 2 parts or 2 lines on the bottom half. That's just a matter of preference. So feel free to experiment a bit. And if you want something to screenshot in order to practice on your own, here you go. This is a cheat sheet you can screenshot for the low price of writing a comment in exchange. Comment which tutorial you would prefer to see next. A video on noses or a video on legs. After all, I did make a video on how to draw mouths already, so that's out of the question. And if you are impatient, I've released a book with all of these topics already in them, like how to draw noses, how to draw legs, anatomy, poses, etc. It's called Draw Like a Mangaka and it's available on Amazon. Well done. See you next time, guys. Goodbye.